Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Sulky, express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And Quilt Cut, easy fabric cutting for quilters.
Hi, and welcome back to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community. I'm Patrick Lose, and I'm here with my friend Kay Capps Cross.
Hi there, Patrick.
And in the last segment, Kay showed us a show and tell of her work, a lot of her quilts, black and white and colorful and everything in between. And we also saw the Rusty Summer quilt that
Yes.
we're going to work on a variation on that project in this segment. And this variation is called?
Pass the Pimiento, please.
And tell me why the name of the...
I'm back in black and white because I have to get back in my comfort zone.
Sure.
So doing it in black and white, and what happens in the block is, would you like to pull that one over?
Sure.
I'll show you. In this block, we end up with some pieces that look like olives, but we're minus the pimento.
Great
we don't have a
colors.
pimento in any of
Yeah.
them. So pass the pimento,
That's
please.
a cute title. I like
Thank
it.
you.
And you've got a collection of fabrics here, and we're going to talk a little bit about your process for choosing the fabrics and the colors that you did for this project.
Yes, it's very important. I actually preface my classes often when I have students saying, shopping is very important.
Sure.
It's a skill that we need to practice.
Sure.
And I have often sent home notes, signed and notarized if we happen to have a
For
notary.
husbands.
Yes, for husbands, for significant others, anyone that I said you have to shop because we need those tools. It's
How
our
do you
paints.
build a stash if
It's
you
our
don't shop?
paints,
That's right,
exactly.
that's right.
So what I'm looking for in my color, which I'm just going to use a little color in it, I'm looking for some various depths in that. You know,
Tints and shades
yes,
of that
tints
color.
and shades of that color.
Right.
I like to mix it up with some prints. So I'm also looking at scale. So I'm looking at scale and value.
Definitely.
Okay.
So
And
what, like in this grouping of these greens, what was the one that you pulled? What was your first instinct?
the first one was this one.
The dot, okay.
Yes, and this is actually an upholstery remnant.
Yeah, I can tell that that's
Yeah,
it.
it's a great piece, and I've used both sides of it.
How does that work? I know that you like to vary the kinds of fabric. You don't always use quilter's cotton.
Right.
But how does that work when you're putting something that's heavier like that next to a cotton that may not be?
You're going to have bumps,
Sure.
you know, and I like texture, so that never bothers me.
So anything that's heavier is going to be raised anyway.
Right, it's
and
gonna be
depending on
raised.
how you quilt it too. That's going
Yep.
to show either
So
more
some
or
of
less.
the ways that I press things may change depending on what fabric I'm using.
Right.
And I just go by the seat of my pants with that. I let those heavier fabrics do what they want to.
Sure, sure. So let's jump right into this project then.
Okay.
What would be the first step?
Okay. The first step is this selecting of
Sure,
the fabrics.
right,
And I do
right.
want to show you on my light fabrics, I'm looking for big changes in scale.
Yes,
right?
definitely.
Looking for changes in the kind of prints as well.
It's not just changes in scale. You've got changes in contrast too, because
Right.
you've got such black against white here, and these are more gray tones, or appear more gray because the black is scattered through the
Right,
white.
because
Yeah.
our eye is going to do
Right.
that. Also, different styles of fabric. So we've got one that's very much a reproduction.
Traditional, yeah.
This looks like a reproduction, this does. And then very contemporary in there.
Whimsical, yeah.
And I think sometimes we get afraid to mix those.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I
That's-
love to
yeah,
mix that.
yeah.
I find it makes things much more interesting.
Interesting, definitely.
So that first step of choosing the fabric is the most critical, I think.
Okay, then beyond that, where do you go next after
Okay.
you've chosen your fabrics and
Where
and
we go
you're gonna use
next
them?
with this one is we get to start ripping fabric.
Ripping fabric. Okay.
Ripping fabric,
I
yes.
know that goes against the no pun intended, goes against the grain with some people.
Yes, and this project you certainly can use a rotary
Sure.
cutter, absolutely. But the way we're building this is we're going to build the block larger than we end up with. So we're going to be trimming the
Okay,
perimeter.
okay.
So there's no reason we can't go ahead and rip
Sure,
the strips.
and it's fast.
And it's
Yeah.
very fast.
Okay.
So we would start with our big hunk of fabric.
Okay.
And I will let you measure a 9-inch segment here.
Okay.
And take a little snip and rip that for me. Now, do you like to rip ever?
I do. You know, I used to work in a fabric store too, and we tore the fabric all the time. So that's not foreign to me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I like the sound of it as well.
The only time I really worry about tearing fabric is more if it really needs to be on the straight of grain or on the grain. You know. So go
But
ahead.
then it is on this. If you rip it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's
yes.
when
then
I
you do. Okay,
definitely
I got
want
you.
to tear
Yeah.
fabric is to-
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. Great.
Okay.
So then we're going to start with these strips, and this one, I took a few snips in there for you.
Okay.
But we're going to.
Are we finished with this one?
We're finished with that
Okay.
one. So I'll let you rip this one. Now we've got our 9 inches this way. We're going to rip it into
Oh, okay.
squares.
Okay,
So I've
great.
got a couple of little cuts there for you. Now I like to do part of this for exercise as well.
Yeah.
If
Ooh.
I were
As I
to,
punch
just
you.
take me out, it's okay. If I were to stack a couple of those and snip through like 4, I'm getting more resistance
Sure.
as I pull, so I'm working out as well.
See, the thing with me that drives me nuts already, it's the
But I
strings.
love those. I love those because it takes me right back to when my kids were little in footy pajamas. And they'd
Picking
run,
up, cleaning the house.
they'd
for
run
you.
through the studio and pick them all up, and there would be strings all over their feet. I loved it.
As long as there's no pins.
Well, some of those too. Yeah.
So are you
So
actually
we're
going
going
to
to use
these now?
those.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to use those. So hopefully you rip those accurately for me.
Well, I mean, there's not
Not
much
too much
accuracy
wrong
to
you
it.
can
Yeah.
do. So we're going to need to take a little snip in this too. Now, I'm going to really push you here. We don't need to use a ruler necessarily. We want a strip that's maybe about 4.5
Oh,
inches.
I'm good at this. Okay.
So you can use your thumb to measure
So
anything.
where am I cutting?
You're
though?
going to
Where
cut
am I
on
gonna
the
clip?
fold.
On the fold line. Okay. And 4 inches in.
Yeah,
about?
4.5, something like that. And then we're going to rip that, and that's going to be the first piece we use.
This one's a yarn dyed, so it's.
Oh, that one may not rip quite as
no,
well.
it should rip well. Good
There we go.
exercise.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, one thing we can take off is the selvages, and I think they ripped off by themselves,
Yeah,
which
they're
they
gone.
often do, which is great.
Yep.
So we're going to have an assortment of strips out of these fabrics.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to have them all laid next to us. We're going to have some of this, 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 this. Now, there may be a case where you don't have big hunks of fabric.
Okay.
And I think over on the top of my stack here, I've got some squares where I'm actually going to be using scraps.
Sure.
So if
Oh,
I
that's
have a
great.
bunch of scraps in my stash
That are almost the size
that
of
are
the square.
almost the size I need,
Sure.
there I go.
That's great.
Okay, then I can use those. We can also use scraps of the color as well.
Okay.
Okay, but we'll start with a full strip here.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make what looks like a mortar board.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to show you that first so we have an idea of what we're going for. We're going to be taking this strip and sewing around our block.
Okay. I can see how it looks like a mortar board.
It does
already.
look like a
Yeah,
mortar board, doesn't
definitely.
it? Just
Yeah.
like that. So that's going to be our end result here of our sewing the strips on to begin with.
That's
Okay.
definitely intriguing. I want to see what you're
Yes.
going to do with that.
It's a great project to do if you're at a retreat.
Sure.
You don't want to have to be
and
thinking
measure
about
and-
what
yeah.
you're doing. You can share strips with your
2,000
friends.
of this or
Exactly.
that, yeah.
Yes. So you can sit there and pretty mindlessly sew
Great.
these together. Okay.
Okay,
So
let's
that's
do
what
it.
we're going to end up with. Now, Patrick, I know I'm a little bit more of a loosey-goosey quilter than you, and you like things a little bit measured. So
little bit,
this
yeah.
next step, if you wouldn't mind passing a wooden iron to me,
Sure,
please.
let's get this out of our way.
This
also.
next step is one that you can do just to give yourself some guidelines before you start piecing.
Okay. I think I know
So
what you're going to do. Yeah.
if you just wooden iron right there on the perimeter
Okay.
and then fold it again, and I actually put a couple together for this one because we don't have to be exact
Mm-hmm.
on this. So when we open it up, we're going to have little crease marks as
Those
guidelines.
are like your destination
Yes,
points
exactly.
for your corners. Okay.
Yes. So we're going to take one of these, and now we're going to start piecing
Okay.
with our strips. Okay. So our goal is to put a strip in between those two creases. Now, occasionally I'll go like this or like this
Oh, I
to
see,
change
yeah.
my angle.
Okay.
To add interest.
Yeah, because in the quilt, you can see that sometimes those angles go off into the next block or whatever.
Yes.
They're cut off, blunt.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So that adds a lot of visual interest.
So you
okay?
don't have to be exact with this. This
Not
is just
at all.
playing.
Not
totally.
at all.
Okay,
It is
cool.
complete playing. Complete playing. So I'm going to show you this would be the first seam.
Okay.
Okay, just to gauge so you know where we're going with this. And then our second seam, we're going to end up like that.
Okay, and you're pivoting at this corner rather
Right.
than you're not overlapping and folding or anything
Exactly.
like that. Okay.
What we're going to do is we're going to stitch down here to this point. We're going to go off of our background
okay.
fabric a little bit.
Okay.
Much as we do when we're adding binding. You know, we're going to go off a little
Right,
bit.
mitering a corner or
Yep.
something like that.
And then
Okay.
we'll pivot and we'll actually, sometimes I'll actually bunch up that background fabric
Oh,
a
really?
little to
Okay.
change the angle.
That part would drive me nuts a little bit.
I know. That's why I wanted to do
I'm
this
seeing
project.
puckers. Okay, cool.
Okay, so then the next one would be with 3 around it. Okay, and we're just going to continue to go around.
Okay.
And then we end up with our mortar board.
Okay,
Going
so on this
around the
third
whole way.
one, but let's go back. You cut this up.
Yes,
You
that
had
one
just
cut.
a scrap. Okay.
Yep.
I was
Had
going to say,
just
so
a
we need
scrap.
to do a continuous strip all the way around all 4 sides.
Yes,
okay,
that's
cool.
the premise, that you're going to be doing a continuous strip all the way around. You don't have to think about what fabric you're using, where you're lining it up.
Right, right.
You're just grabbing a strip and stitching
sewing.
around the
Okay.
block.
Are you gonna do one for us
I'm going
here?
to do one
Okay,
for you.
cool.
Yep.
Let's-
I started right here. I'm using my folds as a guideline. And I'm just using a regular J foot. I don't need to use a 1/4 inch foot.
No.
I'm guesstimating, you know. I'm going to go off, okay?
Okay.
Here's where I'm going to pivot.
Oh, clear out there. Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to fold this fabric
Oh my God,
back,
yeah,
okay?
that's-
Now I'll bunch one up just to make you a little bit nervous. Okay? Drop my foot. And I'm just going to
start the
stitch
next-
down. Yeah.
Okay.
And stitch my angle, okay? We can go a little bit faster than that. I like to rev it.
I do too.
This one I
faster the
won't bunch
better.
up, so we'll have a little bit different angle there, okay? And you just keep
And you
going
didn't go
around.
off quite so far on that one
Right,
either. Okay.
right.
So it's just completely random, and that's what I like about the quilt itself. It
It's
looks
very random,
Yeah.
yes.
Spontaneous.
One of my editors once described me as ordered chaos, I believe, or organized chaos.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, and I think that kind of
Did you
describes.
take that as a
I
compliment?
did,
Okay.
very much so.
All right.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not sure if I would.
I did. No, I don't think.
Knowing
it,
you, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So then I'm here at the end. I've gone around. I've made my mortar board.
It also looks kind of like a box from here.
Oh, it does look
But-
like a box.
But that's what you're doing, and then yeah, from this side it is a mortar board.
There it is.
That's
And
very
that's our base piecing
The
that
base
we're going
for
to do.
every block in
That's
the
the
quilt.
base for
Okay.
every block in the quilt right there.
cool. Well, that's great. So this is a good stopping point because in
Yes.
the next segment, then we'll come back and put these blocks to work.
Great.
So come back and join us again on Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters Community. And I'm Patrick Lose. Thanks for being with us.
Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters Community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Sulky, express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And Quilt Cut, easy fabric cutting for quilters.